Today in this video, we're testing the biggest murder mystery to myths ever. And one of them sounds completely impossible. Can experienced players actually identify the murderer before they even pull out their knife? Let's find out. Can standing completely still be the most overpowered survival strategy in 2? Does jumping actually help you survive, or haven't players believed a fake myth for years? And many more. There are a lot of murder mystery to myths that players repeat as if they're facts. But today we're putting some of the biggest into myths to the test to find out which ones are actually true and which ones are completely fake. Some of these myths could change the way you play the game, while others might just be things the community has believed for years without any real proof. We're going to test every myth fairly, show the results, and give each one a final verdict. Let's get started. The first myth we're testing is whether jumping constantly makes you move faster than other players. This is one of the most common habits in 2. Whenever players are being chased by the murderer, they start jumping everywhere because many people believe it increases movement speed. To test this, we're running the exact same route multiple times. First, we'll run normally from one end of the map to the other. Then we'll repeat the same route while continuously jumping. After comparing the times, the results are very clear. Jumping does not increase your movement speed. Both runs take nearly the same amount of time. However, jumping does make your movement less predictable, which can sometimes help you avoid knife throws. So if the myth is that jumping makes you faster, that's false. But if the myth is that jumping can help you survive longer, there is some truth to that. Final verdict: busted. The second myth is that hiding in secret spots is always the best strategy for surviving. Most players immediately run to popular hiding locations because they assume the murderer won't check them. To test this myth, we spent several rounds hiding in well-known spots and then compared the results with rounds where we stayed in more open but unexpected locations. What we found was actually surprising. Popular hiding spots are usually the first places experienced murderers check because they already know where players like to hide. Meanwhile, less obvious locations often go unnoticed because nobody expects a player to stand there. This doesn't mean open areas are always safer, but it does show that secret hiding spots aren't automatically the best option. Final verdict: busted. Next, we're testing a myth that many experienced players believe. The claim is that skilled players can identify the murderer before the first elimination even happens. At first, this sounds impossible because nobody has any information at the start of a round. However, after observing multiple games, we noticed that certain behaviors appear repeatedly among murderers. Some players follow others without collecting coins, some constantly position themselves near groups, and others seem to be waiting for the perfect opportunity to attack. While these clues don't guarantee who the murderer is, experienced players can often make surprisingly accurate predictions based on behavior alone. It's not perfect, but it's definitely possible. Final verdict confirmed. For the fourth myth, we're testing whether jump throwing gives the murderer a better chance of landing a knife. This is one of the most debated myths in 2. Some players claim jump throws are more accurate, while others believe they make no difference at all. To test it, we compared normal knife throws and jump throws from identical positions. After multiple attempts, we found that jump throwing does not increase knife speed or damage. However, jumping changes the angle of the throw, which can make certain shots easier depending on the situation. This means jump throwing doesn't magically improve accuracy, but it can create opportunities that aren't available during a normal throw. Final verdict: plausible but not proven. We'll call this one partially confirmed. Now let's move on to a myth that almost every player has heard. The claim is that the sheriff is always targeted first by the murderer. To find out if this is true, we observed multiple rounds and watched how murderers selected their victims. Early in the game, most murderers simply attacked whoever was closest or easiest to eliminate. However, the moment the sheriff revealed their weapon, everything changed. The sheriff immediately became the highest priority target because eliminating them removes the biggest threat to the murderer. So the game itself does not force the murderer to attack the sheriff first, but most players naturally choose to do so because it's the smartest strategy. Final verdict confirmed. For our final myth, we're testing whether standing completely still can actually make you harder to notice. Most players assume movement is necessary to survive, but some claim that remaining motionless can help you blend into the environment. We tested this across several maps and the results were surprisingly consistent. When players move, they attract attention. When they jump, run, or panic, they become easier to spot. But when standing still in the right location, many players simply overlook them. This strategy doesn't work everywhere, and it won't save you if the murderer checks your area carefully, but it proved to be much more effective than expected. Final verdict confirmed. After testing all of these myths, some of the community's most popular beliefs turned out to be completely false, while others were actually backed up by real results. Jumping does not make you faster. Secret hiding spots are not always the safest option. Experienced players really can predict the murderer sometimes. Jump throwing can create better angles. Sheriffs become priority targets once revealed. And standing still can be surprisingly effective in the right situation. If you know another MM2 myth that players swear is true, leave it in the comments, and it might be featured in the next myth-busting episode.